Even as believers, there are times when we find ourselves struggling with doubt, questioning God's goodness, and wondering why we still struggle with uncertainty despite all that He has done for us. This is a common experience shared by many throughout the history of the Christian faith, and it is one that is addressed directly in the pages of the Bible. One of the central figures who grappled with this very issue was the prophet Habakkuk. In the book that bears his name, Habakkuk wrestles with the apparent disconnect between his faith in God's sovereignty and the injustice and suffering he sees all around him. "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear?" he laments. "Why do you make me see iniquity, and why do you idly look at wrong?" Habakkuk 1 verses 2 to 3. Habakkuk's struggle is not unlike our own. We believe in a God who is all-powerful, all-loving, and all-good, yet we are confronted with a world that is often full of pain, hardship, and unanswered prayers. It can be easy to feel like God has abandoned us or that He is somehow indifferent to our struggles. However, as we delve deeper into Habakkuk's story, we see that God does not dismiss or belittle the prophet's doubts. Instead, He engages with them and provides a response that speaks to the heart of the matter. God begins by reminding Habakkuk of His sovereignty and His ultimate plan for the world. "Look among the nations, and see, wonder and be astounded. For I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if told." Habakkuk 1 verse 5. In other words, God is at work in ways that may not be immediately evident, but that are nonetheless real and significant. This is a crucial lesson for us as well. When we are struggling with doubt, it is easy to become myopic, focusing solely on our immediate circumstances and failing to see the bigger picture of what God is doing. But God's ways are often mysterious and His timing is not always our own. As the prophet Isaiah reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." Isaiah 55 verse 8. Habakkuk is then invited to wait and trust in God's ultimate plan, even when it is not clear what that plan is. "The righteous shall live by his faith," God declares, Habakkuk 2 verse 4. This is a message that echoes throughout the Bible, from the stories of Abraham, Moses, and David to the teachings of Jesus and the apostles. It is a message that calls us to hold fast to our faith, even when the path ahead is shrouded in uncertainty. It is a message that reminds us that our ultimate hope is not in the circumstances of this world, but in the unwavering character and promises of our God. Of course, this is easier said than done. Doubt and uncertainty can be powerful forces, and it is natural to struggle with them at times. But the Bible offers us a wealth of resources and examples to draw from as we seek to overcome our doubts and grow in our faith. One such example is the story of the disciples on the road to Emmaus, recorded in the Gospel of Luke. After the crucifixion of Jesus, the disciples were filled with confusion and despair, uncertain of what the future held. But as they walked along the road, the risen Christ appeared to them and began to explain the Scriptures, revealing how all that had happened was a part of God's greater plan. Luke 24 verses 13 to 35. This story reminds us that even when we are overwhelmed by doubt and uncertainty, God is still at work, revealing Himself to us and guiding us towards a deeper understanding of His purposes. It is a story of hope and redemption, and it speaks to the power of faith to overcome the challenges we face. Another powerful example is the life of the Apostle Thomas, who is often referred to as Doubting Thomas due to his initial skepticism about the resurrection of Jesus. When the other disciples told him that they had seen the risen Lord, Thomas refused to believe them, insisting that he would not believe unless he could see and touch the wounds of Jesus for himself. John 20 verses 24 to 29. Yet, when Jesus later appeared to Thomas and invited him to do just that, the disciples' response was one of profound faith and worship, "My Lord and my God." John 20 verse 28. This story reminds us that even the most stubborn doubts can be overcome when we encounter the living God, and that our faith can be strengthened and deepened through such encounters. Of course, the ultimate example of overcoming doubt and uncertainty is found in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ Himself. Throughout His ministry, Jesus faced constant opposition and skepticism, with many questioning His identity and His message. Yet, despite the challenges He faced, Jesus remained steadfast in his faith and his commitment to the will of his heavenly Father. Even in the face of his own impending death, Jesus did not waver in his trust in God's plan. As he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, he acknowledged the weight of the suffering that lay ahead, yet he surrendered himself completely to the Father's will, saying, "Not my will, but yours, be done." Luke 22 verse 42. And when Jesus rose from the dead, triumphant over sin and death, he demonstrated the power of faith to overcome even the greatest challenges. His resurrection is the ultimate testimony to the faithfulness and trustworthiness of God, and it serves as a source of hope and encouragement for all who struggle with doubt and uncertainty. As we reflect on these biblical examples, we are reminded that doubt and uncertainty are not inherently sinful or unacceptable. In fact, they are a natural part of the human experience, and they can even be a catalyst for deepening our faith and our relationship with God. The key is to approach our doubts with humility and openness, recognizing that we do not have all the answers and that we are entirely dependent on God's wisdom and grace. Rather than trying to suppress or ignore our doubts, we can bring them to God in prayer, asking for the courage and the clarity to navigate the challenges we face. And as we do so, we can take comfort in the knowledge that God is not threatened or offended by our doubts. Instead, He welcomes us to engage with Him, to wrestle with the difficult questions, and to seek a deeper understanding of His ways and His purposes. Indeed, the Bible is filled with stories of individuals who struggled with doubt and uncertainty, yet who ultimately found their faith strengthened and their relationship with God deepened through the process. From the patriarchs of the Old Testament to the disciples of the New Testament, we see a recurring pattern of doubt giving way to faith, of uncertainty being transformed into trust. And this is the promise that we can hold on to as well. Even when we find ourselves in the midst of a crisis of faith, when we are struggling to reconcile our beliefs with the realities of the world around us, we can take heart in the knowledge that God is faithful, that He is working all things together for our good, and that He will never abandon us or leave us to face our doubts alone. As the Apostle Paul reminds us, we walk by faith, not by sight, 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7. This means that our trust in God must go beyond what we can see or understand in the moment. It requires us to cling to the truth of who God is and what He has promised, even when the circumstances of our lives seem to contradict those truths. And as we do so, we may find that our doubts and uncertainties begin to recede, replaced by a deeper sense of peace, purpose, and confidence in the God who has promised to be with us always. We may find that our faith is strengthened and our relationship with God is deepened, as we learn to rely on His unfailing love and unshakable promises. Ultimately, the journey of overcoming doubt and uncertainty is one that requires patience, perseverance, and a willingness to trust in the God who knows all things and works all things for our good. It is a journey that may be filled with challenges and setbacks, but it is also one that is marked by the promise of a God who never fails, a God who is always at work, even when we cannot see or understand what He is doing. So let us take courage, and let us press on in our faith, confident that the God who has done so much for us in the past will continue to be faithful in the days and years to come. Let us cling to the truth that our salvation is secure, that our future is certain, and that no matter what challenges we may face, we can trust in the unwavering love and guidance of our Heavenly Father.